Okay guys, so here we are, we're coming towards the end of this tutorial. This will be the final stage. As you can see on the actual test piece, I've put the roof on, I've put the ridge tiles on, I've attached the balcony, I've not done the window on this side yet because the parts still haven't arrived, but I'll do that at a later date. But that's basically what you're looking to end up with, something like that. You can go further with the detail if you so wish, and the paint job, etc. This is going to be, for me, a quick and easy how to get Dale buildings that in some way replicate Rick's awesome work on the board that he done for SBG Magazine. Rick went into a lot of detail with some of his buildings, and you can go inside and see the, like shelving, wardrobes, beds, etc. And you can do that if you so wish. Obviously it would take a little bit longer, but yeah, this is just if you want to get some Dale buildings done nice and quick. His tutorial is perfect for that. It shows you how you can achieve it with the right materials in a fairly easy manner. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you what I've done with the roof, how I achieve the effect that I'm going to achieve. There's still another layer of dry brushing to go on that, but we'll come to that shortly. And I'm going to show you on this test piece. So this test piece here started life out, excuse me, this colour, sort of creamy resin, and all I did was I done myself a mix of Model Air colour wood 71077 and mixed that with some Army Painter Lava Orange, and put a lot of thinner in that, got it down to a nice consistency, and I used my airbrush and went over the roof sections. If you don't have an airbrush, don't worry, you can do it without an airbrush, you can do it with a brush. Just find with an airbrush you get a lot smoother application. The reason that I decided not just to dig a colour out that I had sort of in stock, if you like, a terracotta shade in stock, and just paint the roof with that and highlight, was because these two, Citadel Rat Skin Flesh and Jacaro Orange, are the kind of finish that I want on my terracotta, and I just didn't have anything, a darker version of those. So if you can see the comparison of the actual tiles to those, these will be my highlight layers, which I'll dry brush on. I didn't have a darker colour, like I say, so I decided to mix one myself using these. If you have a darker colour or a terracotta, which is kind of that nice deep warm orange colour, by all means use that rather than mixing. I'm just showing you what I used and how I achieved the effects that I achieved. So without further ado, all I did was, like I say, put the base colour on, let that dry, make sure it's perfectly dry, and what we're going to do, we're going to get ourselves, this is not Null Oil, nor is it paint which has been thinned down. This is the black ink which I shown you that I was using earlier in the videos, and I've thinned it down. It's not a wash, it's going to be kind of a glaze because it's going to go over every part of the tiles. I don't want it to pool in the deeper areas and not be on the raised areas. I want it all over the tiles. It's going to make the tiles look weathered, look worn. It is going to shade, but it's just going to give us a more natural look. So you just get some on your brush, not too much, don't overload it. You want to have control of when you put it on, and you just pop it on. What you find when you sort of paint in a texture like this, and it's quite fine detail, it's got all the ridges on, if you brush it on too quickly, so if you start going like this, you'll get bubbles. It creates bubbles. It's not the end of the world because some of them will sort of disperse and pop as it dries, but if you can avoid getting them from the get-go, you know, you're eliminating the chance, if you like, of having bubbles. Again, you know, if a few get through and you end up with bubbles, don't worry too much about it. From 3 foot away, you're not really going to notice it. So we'll put the wash on, we're going to wait for that to dry, and then we're going to come back and start highlighting the colour up. So we'll come back in a second. Okay, so our black glaze is nice and dry, and as you can see it's darkened it down nicely, and we've got some nice sort of shading in the recesses. What we're going to do now is we're going to dry brush with rat skin flesh. So give it a good shake. I've shook it off camera, but just give it a good shake again, practice. And we're going to get some on our dry brush, and then we're going to take as much off the dry brush onto tissue as possible. And what we're going to do is we're just going to draw the dry brush across the detail like so. And you see? Yeah. And what you can do is, sometimes with dry brushing, when you put the light colour on, as you apply it, it looks like you've gone just too much, or you've not took enough paint off your dry brush, which sometimes can be the case. Make sure you take a lot off, but don't then try and sort of rectify it with the brush, because as that paint dries, paint darkens as it dries, basically. So just give it a chance to dry. When you're dry brushing, you put... I do apologise, my battery died. So as I was saying, a couple of layers using the rat skin flesh of dry brushing. Don't be tempted to go heavier with the paint when it looks like you're not getting a lot on there, because remember, we've got another lighter shade to go yet. It's very gradual, which is what you want. So that's the rat skin flesh. We're going to go straight into the Chicero orange from there. We're not going to clean the brush off. We're going to keep the same brush, because if anything it'll give you a nice transition. This is a very slightly, a slight shade lighter, and we're going to go lighter with the application. Just pick out the parts that we want. I like to kind of go around the edges and leave the centre of the sort of roof area a little bit darker, maybe the odd little patch here and there. Just adds a bit of realism, I think, to it. Excuse my phone. So that's that. So I'm at this stage now on this roof, so all I'm going to do now is basically dry brush this roof. I've got one more stage of the dry brush to go on it, using the Chicero orange. That's what I'm going to do, and pretty much that is it. So we'll come back in a second. Okay guys, so we're drawing to the end of the tutorial. All I've done up to this stage is that everything that I've shown you, and I've coated the whole thing in a gloss coat, excuse me, a gloss coat to protect the paint. With it being plaster, it quite easily comes off and you get little white patches here and there, which, you know, it depends how you feel about it. It's not the end of the world. You know, plaster gets chipped in real life also, so you can sort of go with that. Another thing that I thought about whilst handling it and seeing the white patches going up, and I kept having to go back and sort of touch them up, was something that I'm going to try on the next one, and that is trying to add this sort of yellow ochre colour to the plaster, seeing if I can get something in there, maybe use an ink or something, or some of the pigment. I'm not sure how well that would work or if it would affect the plaster itself, but I'm going to give that a go, and that way if the plaster does chip, it's not white underneath. But once you get your gloss layer on anyway, you do a couple of layers of that, it should be fine. So you can leave the build there if you so wish, or you can start adding a few little details. If you've been lucky enough to get a chance to look at Rick's actual board, when the SBG boys have been at Ardacon or any other events, etc., you'll notice that there is a few little things that just add that final touch, you know, like creeping vines, plants, etc. Now I'm not going to go down the plants route here, because we're just doing the building, we're not doing the board. Maybe that will be something in a later video, because a Dale board was something that I envisaged a while back, and when I found out that the SBG lads were in the process of that, the latest issue being about Dale, I didn't want to take any limelight from that at all, and to be honest, anything I would have done at that stage would not have compared at all to Rick's effort at the board. It's just simply amazing. I know I've said it before, but you know, you've got to see it to believe it. It is spot on, and I've took a lot of tips from looking at it and going around it, and also reading his tutorial, which is good. So again, I'll reiterate, if you've not picked up SBG Magazine, get your hands on a copy, it's well worth it. Not just for the tutorial, for everything. You know, the back rep's amazing. The other tutorials from, you know, some of the other guys in the community, it's really worth picking up. And there's 5 issues now, so if you've not even picked up one, you've got a multitude of content there to flick through. Just get in touch with the guys at sbgmagazine@gmail.com. Anyway, on to the detailing. So what we're going to do is going to keep it really simple. Some of the buildings that I do when I do finish the Dale board that I'm going to be using for gaming, hopefully at the Scour in Cheshire in 2018, the board will have a lot more detail on it, but like I say, for this we're just going to go fairly simple. So what do I have? I have some very fine burnt grass colour flock from Woodland Scenics, and I also have some static grass, and this colour is Harvest Gold. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add it in little areas to make it look like, you know, sort of weeds and stuff are starting to grow out of crevices in the building. So we're going to start, sorry, what we're going to use to attach it, I'm going to use this Turbo Tacky Glue, Aleen's Turbo Tacky Glue. I'm not too sure what the difference is between this and PVA. It seems to be very, very similar. It just dries a little bit quicker. It's a little bit thicker, so I'm not too sure. It's the reason I'm using it at this moment. You can just use normal neat PVA, is because I'm able just to squeeze it straight out of the bottle. I do have, I've got none to hand. I bought on eBay a load of small dropper bottles, and what I tend to do there is I do my different ratios of mixing of PVA. So I have a one with neat PVA, one with 50-50, one with that's very fine, and then I have spray bottles with really, really watered down PVA to use as a scenic cement. But this is just handy because I had it and it's got the nozzle on it, so I can sort of apply it where needed. So we'll start off with the static grass, and what I'm going to do, if you can see just here, you'll have to excuse my frozen plaster when you have 2 young girls, that's how you roll. We're just going to put a little bit there, just on the top of the decorative border. We're going to get some tweezers, pick up some of the static grass, and we're going to pop it in just like that. And you know, that sort of creates the effect that, you know, birds have nestled there on the corner, or you know, some seeds have been blown into the corner, nestled in a little bit of soil and have started to grow. And it's just things like that that you want to look for. So I'm also going to do that in the corner of this windowsill. So get some glue. And I always find with details like this, less is more. So don't go mad. You know, just put a little bit on, and then look at it when that's all done. And if you're not happy with it, you don't think there's enough, you know, then add some more. So we're just gonna run some along that edge as well. I'm not going to go too crazy on this side because, if you remember, I've got another window to attach. Oh no, it's the other side, isn't it? So yeah, this side's not too bad actually. So we're just going to use the tweezers. We're not going to press into the glue so the tweezers are getting glue in them, because you'll end up sticking all sorts to your thing. And don't be tempted to blow it off yet. Let all the glue set, let any of the loose fibres soak up any glue, and the rest of it will just drop off. So here we've got a nice effect here on the top of the window frame, where we can add some there. That'll look quite cool. So again, tweezers, we're going to drop it on so we cover the glue, and then we're able to press it in, and the glue will act as a barrier between the tweezer tips and the glue, so I'm not getting glue on my tweezers. Yeah, so less is more, like I say. And then this side I'm just going to put some on each side, like so. Try not to be too uniformed. You know, you don't want symmetry. You don't really get symmetry in nature. You know, things kind of land and grow in a haphazard fashion. So just try and bear that in mind. It's quite hard sometimes because you naturally, as a human, I get into scientific. You kind of want things in the right place and in order, and it's quite hard not to put things symmetrical. But yeah, I'm happy with that. What I'm also going to do is just some here on the edge of the balcony. You know, and what this is doing, this is going to add that level of, you know, no one's been in the city for a long time, and you know, you've got weeds growing and such. You know, I think it looks quite cool. I think I'll just add another little bit, oh excuse me, on the front, so you're getting that effect on the front also. There we go. Press it on, and what I'll do in about an hour, that should be dry, and I'm going to blow it all off. You'll find when you put it down, little bits fall off it. Don't worry, that's fine. I think actually what I'll do is I'll put a little bit here as well. You do get that, you know, birds carry seeds and things like that, and they'll be landing up there and dropping seeds, so we're going to put some on the roof. I think that'll look quite cool. And it just breaks up that colour, all that terracotta also. And it's these little things that will make your model stand out and look a lot more detailed than it actually is. There's little tips and tricks like that which I'll show you in future videos that you can do. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. So what we're going to do next is, we can get rid of that now, we don't need that. We're going to go to the burnt grass flock, and what I'll do with the burnt grass flock, I think I'll do that on this side, and I'll put this like that, put that there, stop it rolling over. What we're going to do here is we're going to sort of create the effect of some climbing vines. Now you can buy climbing vines from Woodland Scenics and the other sort of scenery manufacturers, and they're really cool. They come like on a, you can stretch them out, cut them to size and put them on, and they look awesome. But a sort of a little cheat that I've found is basically just using some of your glue, and you're going to use the glue to draw the shape of a vine up. Obviously that would branch off like so, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to drop the flock onto that, and you get a really nice effect. Now if you go on, if this, let's just say this was going to be a diorama, because I do have an intention of doing a follow-up, a more advanced tutorial sort of from this tutorial, if that makes any sense, where you're making a day-old diorama, and obviously in that you're going to use the same basics, so I'm not going to show you how to put the sides together and etc, etc, etc. We'll reference back to this video. It'll just be, the differences will be the paint job, and mainly the details and how far you go with the details, and that will be the main differences. And the reason that I say that is, if you wanted this to be even more detailed and realistic with the vines, you'd put this layer on, you'd then let that dry, and then you'd just dot more glue. So you wouldn't follow the same line, you just follow it sort of like a, I don't know, dot dot dash dash if you like, following that line. So you'd put a bit on, miss, put a bit on, miss, put a bit on, miss, and then you'd go in with a lighter flock or a darker flock. And what you get there is a contrast, and it makes it look like the leaves are different colours, you've got different shades in the leaves, etc. And it gives you a nice finish. But that is that. So we're going to cover everything so you can't see any glue, like we did with the static grass. And what that enables you to do is you can then just gently, you're not pressing it flat, you don't want to press it so that you're feeling the resistance of the wall behind that, you're just pressing it slightly into the glue. Yeah, and I don't know how well that's coming up on camera, but let's just see. Can you see that? You get a nice effect, and you can put that in all different places. You can go right up to the top of the building if you want. What I would suggest is going online, googling and looking at references for, you know, climbing vines, etc. And you'll sort of see how they fall, how they land, what areas of building they are sort of regularly seen in. And yeah, that's it. That is as far as we're going to go with this tutorial. So we'll come back, we'll have a little sort of recap, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So that's it, guys. It's fairly simple. I know it's easy to say that when you're making a lot of terrain, but trust me, until you start having a go, you're never going to know if it's for you or not. So I'd really like to know if you guys had a go at the build with me, and I'd really like to see what you ended up with. If you followed it to the word on this video, or if you followed it to the word in the magazine, or if you like changed a few things, I'd be really interested. I kind of bounce around with other terrain builders, not just in the Hobbit community, like online, different people, and we bounce ideas around and get different tips and techniques off each other, and it's a really good way to hone your skills. But yeah, that's the Dale building. Very happy with it. There's going to be a few more of those, and what we're going to do is we're going to build a board eventually, and show you how to place them on the board. They won't be stuck down, they'll be removable. So you can store your board away and transport it around to different areas if you wanted to play at a friend's house or a different club, etc. So keep an eye out for that. Like I say, keep commenting, keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing, and yeah, let's make this good. The next build with me, I've got a few ideas, but if there's anything that you particularly want to see, comment below. Make sure that you let me know what it is that you want to see, what it is you want to have a crack at. I know Mr. Kieran Street is going to take a crack at building some terrain, so what I may do is just get some ideas off him and just do videos on what it is that he wants, and that way I'm sharing, not only giving him the information that he may want from me, I can share it with all you guys. So yeah, keep on gaming, guys, and I will see you in the next video. See you soon.